There is a particular kind of courage that nobody talks about. Not the courage to fight, not the courage to win, but the courage to spend years doing the work behind the work, invisible, uncredited, unseen, and still believe that your moment is coming. Imagine spending the first decade of your professional life making other people look extraordinary, while you remain a name that nobody in the audience ever knows. Imagine taking hits for someone else's glory, perfecting moves that someone else will receive applause for, and walking off set in the dark while the stars walk into the spotlight. Most people would break under that. Most people would walk away. This is the story of Zhang Jin, also known as Max Zhang, a man who started as a national wushu champion, became a ghost in the world's greatest films, and then, with patience so deep it almost defies understanding, emerged as one of the most commanding presences in the history of Asian action cinema. This is the story of a man who waited for his name, and when it finally arrived, the world could not look away. May 19, 1974. Chongqing, China, a city of mountains and rivers, humidity and heat, a city that breeds people with a particular kind of toughness baked into their bones. Zhang Jin is born here. At the age of 9, he begins learning martial arts, not because a famous director came looking for him, not because his parents saw stardom in his future, simply because the discipline found him, and something in him recognized it as his language. 2 years later, at just 11 years old, he joins the Sichuan Wushu team, 11 years old and already competing at a level that most adults would find unreachable. He trains in disciplines that demand total commitment of body and mind: Chen-style Tai Chi, Yang-style Tai Chi, Tai Chi sword, gunmanship, swordmanship, Baguazhang, drunken sword. He does not dabble. He does not try things and move on. He devotes. He masters. He collects gold medals at the 7th and 8th National Games. He wins the National Martial Arts Competition in Chen-style Tai Chi and Tai Chi sword. He wins championships in gunmanship and swordmanship. He earns the title of Wuying level athlete, the highest classification in Chinese Wushu. By the time he retires from competitive athletics, Zhang Jin has not merely learned martial arts, he has become it. In 1998, after retiring from the Wushu team, Zhang Jin makes a decision that will define the next chapter of his life in ways he could not yet fully see. He joins Yuan Wuping's legendary stunt and choreography team, known simply as the Yuan Clan, one of the most respected action units in all of Hong Kong cinema. And here the invisible years begin. In the year 2000, Zhang Jin appears in what will become one of the most celebrated films in cinema history, Ang Lee's Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. But he does not appear as himself. He appears as someone else. He is the stunt double for Zhang Zi. The breathtaking fight sequences that audiences around the world watch with their mouths open, some of that is Zhang Jin's body. Zhang Jin's precision, Zhang Jin's sacrifice, no credit in the lights. No name on the poster, just a man doing extraordinary things in the dark so that someone else can shine in the spotlight. In 2002, he serves as Donnie Yen's exclusive stunt double in Zhang Yimou's Hero, standing in for one of Asia's greatest action stars in one of Asia's most visually stunning films. He also choreographs the legendary rain sequence, the fight between Nameless and Chang Kong at the Go Courtyard, one of the most beautiful fight scenes in the history of cinema. In 2003, he serves as a martial arts choreographer for not one but 2 Hollywood productions, Charlie's Angels, Full Throttle, and Daredevil. A Chinese martial artist working at the highest levels of Hollywood filmmaking, and still, almost completely unknown to the audiences watching the films he helped create. From 2000 onwards, Zhang Jin begins taking on-screen roles, small ones at first, Chinese Heroes, Undiscovered Tomb, direct-to-video productions in Hong Kong where he goes by the name John Zhang, trying to appeal to international audiences. He works with Sammo Hung in Wushu. He takes television roles series after series, building his craft on screen the same way he had built his body in training, slowly, deliberately, without shortcuts. He works alongside Ada Choi, a celebrated Hong Kong actress, in several television productions. They fall in love. They date for 4 years. On January 12, 2008, they marry at the Hong Kong Baptist Theological Seminary. In the industry, people know Zhang Jin. Directors know him. Action choreographers know him. The Yuan clan knows him. But the audience, the millions of people who watch the films he inhabits, they do not yet know his name. For nearly 15 years, Zhang Jin works. He improves, he waits. Not the passive waiting of someone who has given up. The active waiting of someone who is using every single day to become more ready for the moment that has not yet arrived. And then, in 2013, it arrives, Wong Kar-wai. The name alone carries the weight of a legacy, one of the greatest film directors who has ever lived. A man whose films are not just watched but felt, whose images stay inside you long after the credits end. Wong Kar-wai was making The Grandmaster, a film about the legendary Wing Chun master Ip Man, the man who would one day teach Bruce Lee. The film starred Tony Leung as Ip Man, and Wong Kar-wai needed someone to play Ma San, the ambitious, dangerous, morally complex Xing Yiquan master whose confrontation with Ip Man forms the emotional spine of the film. He chose Zhang Jin. Zhang Jin, the former stunt double, the invisible craftsman, the man who had spent 15 years perfecting his body and his art in the shadows, was now standing in front of Wong Kar-wai's camera as the lead antagonist of one of the most anticipated films in years. And he delivered something extraordinary. His portrayal of Ma San was not simply a villain performance. It was a study in controlled ferocity, in ambition that becomes corruption, in a man who possesses genuine greatness but allows pride to destroy it. Critics saw it. The industry saw it. At the 33rd Hong Kong Film Awards, Zhang Jin won the Best Supporting Actor award for his performance as Ma San in The Grandmaster. A man who had spent 15 years in the shadows walked onto that stage and collected the highest honor Hong Kong cinema gives to an actor. Not as a surprise, as an inevitability that had simply been waiting for the right moment to arrive. The Hong Kong Film Award did not just celebrate what Zhang Jin had done. It announced what he was about to do. In 2015, he starred in SPL II, A Time for Consequences alongside Tony Jaa, a ferocious, emotionally complex action film that showcased not just his physical abilities, but his capacity to carry dramatic weight. In the same year, he appeared in Ip Man 3 as Chung Tin Chi, the rival Wing Chun master whose duel with Donnie Yen's Ip Man becomes the film's most electrifying sequence. His performance was so compelling, his character so fully realized, that the producers made a decision that almost never happens in franchise filmmaking. They gave the rival his own film, Master Z, The Ip Man Legacy, released in 2018 and directed by Yuan Wu Ping himself, the very man whose stunt team Zhang Jin had joined 20 years earlier, placed Zhang Jin as the lead. The man who had once been the stunt double was now the headline. The man who had once made others look extraordinary was now the one the camera followed. The film featured Michelle Yeoh and Dave Bautista alongside him. Zhang Jin carried it with the quiet command of a man who had been preparing for this moment for his entire life, because he had. Here is something about Zhang Jin that the award shows cannot fully capture, something that lives in the actual texture of how he works. In 2017, he spoke about filming Wild Beast, a production that required him to perform extensive underwater fight sequences. Zhang Jin is not a natural swimmer. He had never dared to dive when traveling with his own wife. The underwater scenes were something he genuinely feared. He took diving classes to prepare. 2 or 3 nights before the underwater filming began, he could not sleep. He lay awake in the dark, worrying that he would not be able to cope with it. He said later that it was the hardest work he had ever done in his career, and he did it. Not because it was easy, not because he was fearless, but because he understood something about his craft that most people never learn. The work you are most afraid of is often the work that matters most. He did not avoid the deep water. He went in. And on screen, you cannot see the fear. You only see the mastery, and through all of it, the stunt work, the invisible years, the Hong Kong Film Award, the franchise films, the Hollywood productions, the underwater terror. Zhang Jin has remained anchored in something that fame cannot give and cannot take. His faith, his family. He and Ada Choi are both Protestant Christians, and their faith is not a performance but a foundation. They have 3 children together, 2 daughters named Zoe and Chloe, and a son nicknamed Fishball because this family has not lost its sense of joy in the middle of extraordinary lives. Zhang Jin has never spoken about his career with the language of ambition or competition. He speaks about preparation, about readiness, about the relationship between what you do in the dark and what eventually appears in the light. He is a man who understands, at the deepest possible level, that nothing is wasted. Not the years of stunt work, not the television series that nobody remembers, not the direct-to-video films before anyone knew his name. Every single day of work was building something, and the building never really stops. So what does the story of Zhang Jin teach us? It teaches us something that our culture desperately needs to hear more often. It teaches us that the invisible years are not wasted years. That the work you do when nobody is watching is the exact work that determines who you become when everyone is watching. Zhang Jin spent 15 years making other people look extraordinary. He was the body behind the most beautiful fight in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. He was the choreographer of the most beautiful rain fight in Hero. He stood in the shadows of Donnie Yen, Zhang Zi, Tony Leung, some of the greatest stars in Asian cinema, and he used every single moment in those shadows to become ready. Ready for Wong Kar-wai, ready for Ip Man 3, ready for Master Z, ready for the moment when the camera would finally point at him and the world would see what the shadows had been building. You might be in your invisible years right now. You might be doing work that nobody celebrates, building a skill that nobody has recognized yet, waiting for a moment that has not arrived. Zhang Jin's story says something simple and profound to that person. Keep going. Do the work. Be in the room, even when your name is not on the door. Because the rooms change, the names change, and the day will come, as it came for Zhang Jin, when the work you did in the dark becomes the thing that lights up the world. This has been the story of Zhang Jin. Thank you for watching ZTV Mindset, where every week we bring you the story of someone who proved that the wait was worth it. Subscribe, share this with someone in their invisible years, and we will see you in the next story.